Is Joe going to kick us off?
Yeah, of course I am. Yeah, but what time does the 9 a.m. training start, Chris?
9:01.
9:01. Cool. Hey guys, thanks for hopping on here. We are doing this is an emergency. This is not a test. You probably hear the sirens going off right now. The market's changing. God damn, I feel like that's all I say is the market's changing. Everything's changing, right? And if we want to win, the really cool thing about our organization specifically is we have an unfair advantage over everyone. We have lots of unfair advantages. One of them is sitting in front of us that with glasses on to train us today, that got up very early in the morning on the West Coast to come and sit with us, right? So the cool part is you guys have, it's almost like we have an unbelievable amount of opportunities with buyers and sellers through Zillow. We're meeting with a lot of consumers, and the consumer is changing, right? Their behavior is changing. We talked about the dynamic market and how with mortgage rates and buyers' emotions, it feels a lot like the stock market. One day it's up, one day it's down, one day it's this, one day it's that. And whenever the really cool part about you being a part of the organization that you're a part of is because we have so much market data, we have our finger on the pulse of exactly what's happening in the market. So when the market turns, or when I say the market is changing, this means today we're talking about the consumer and how we're going to interact with the consumer so that we actually earn the right to be their realtor for life. What's happening now is we talked about how there's going to be a declining transaction market where there's just too many realtors, right? There's not enough transactions, and realtors are going to like try and steal your clients. They're going to try and take them away. And also the consumer, I talk to a lot of massive teams that are trying to work the Zillow Flex program or the OpCity program. They don't understand that the consumer that comes in off of the internet is not the same as the one that like met you at the bar or was like at the coffee shop or was referred to you by your parents or got your mailer in the mail. These are people that don't know you, like you, or trust you, and we have to earn the right to be their realtor for life. So the first time we meet them is really, really important in making that impression, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll just say this real quickly. We had in New Jersey, we have something called procuring cause. I wouldn't say it really, I don't say anyone like respects it or it works or anything like that. So Chris is from California where they never had procuring cause, which means like when I moved to California.
Procuring what?
Procuring cause. It means like if I showed a house, you have to work with me. But
I know, I was making a joke.
Chris is from California where they don't have that thing. And so you really have to like get in front of your client and you have to provide value for them to work with you. So Chris is going to dive in. I want to respect his time. Thanks for being here, man. And thanks for doing this, man. And by the way, we did this because we had a handful of agents on our team who took connections. And by the way, we're gonna probably call you out if that's okay.
Not call you out in a loving way, but ask. There's gonna be a lot of question asking, and
yeah. So we had two people we have two of our top agents that absolutely crushed. Just had people call in. They showed them some houses. One of our agents went as far as like submitting an offer, negotiating, and then that person went and wrote with another agent. And that's what we're going to cover today.
Sure. Awesome. First and foremost, I don't know a lot of you guys. I wanted to introduce myself real quick. My name is Chris Giannos. I run a company on the West Coast called Humanize. I met a lot of you guys when I flew out there last April to do an onboarding. And I'm super stoked to be here. So I want to start this off by telling everyone on this call that your clients going around you and using another agent is not a unique, new, or special problem. It just happens, right? The way I want you guys to think about this is you're essentially going on a bunch of like blind first dates with these buyers that you get from Zillow, right? You're showing up to a house, they don't know you, you don't know them, right? And the code that everyone's trying to crack right now is how are we going to get through to that person? So first and foremost, this is the best way to get anything out of a training. And I'm going to challenge everyone on this call to do this. If you're in a spot where you can turn your camera on, I promise you it is so much more inviting than just sitting there with your phone on your chest and watching puppy videos on TikTok. If you don't want to turn your phone on or camera on, that's okay too. This training you'll still find some value of. Awesome. A couple people clicked on. That's great. So I like to start every training by saying something very, very simple, and that's how you're going to get the absolute most out of this training, right? It's really, really simple, and I'm going to drag this out for comedic benefit because it'll make sure everyone's paying attention. Let me know when you're ready for me to tell you how to get the absolute most out of this training. Are you all listening? We're all listening. Okay, cool. You could literally not pay attention for the next 30 minutes and just pay attention at the very end for 30 seconds and still change your business. All you have to do is, has anyone seen this video?
Do it. Just do it.
Okay.
So just do it.
I'm going to send you on Slack immediately after this meeting. I hope that got a laugh out of at least 2 people. Otherwise, my joke fell flat on its face. After this training, I'm going to send you guys the script that we're going to go over in this call, right? I promise you, by just showing up to this training, you are not going to change your business. Just listening to me talk for the next half hour-ish is not going to change your business. It's not going to do anything for you in actuality. What's going to change your business is you printing out this script and doing it and getting uncomfortable, right? The knowing doing gap is something we all struggle with, myself included. I know exactly what I should do. I know I shouldn't go to Taco Bell and slam a bunch of Mexican pizzas and 5-layer burritos. I know I shouldn't do that, right? I want to have a 6-pack. That's not best for me, but I still do it. Why? Because there's a knowing doing gap sometimes, right? The script that I'm going to give you guys isn't designed to just be practiced in a room. You can literally print it out, put it on your little realtor clipboard, go to your showing and almost read it verbatim, and it will help you do this at a higher level. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So this is an actionable thing. This isn't something in theory. You can literally print it out and use it at your showing. So I'm going to talk about 4 things today. Why the first showing is so important and why we experience that homie hopping that happens. The realtor comes in, they interact with you. They go, okay, great. Thank you so much for driving all the way to Bricktown, New Jersey. This is great. I'm going to now work with another agent, right? We want to prevent that from happening as much as possible. How to prepare for the first showing. Getting ready for the first showing starts the second you hang up the phone. And I'm not going to dive super deep on that because I want to spend the majority of our time today talking about how to actually have this post-showing conversation. But that preparing for the showing and that post-connection call checklist is of paramount importance. Last, we'll have some Q&A, some takeaways, and some next steps, which is essentially just going to be me playing that Shia LaBeouf video again that you should just go do it. That's a joke. I'm not going to play it again. Don't worry. And then we'll go from there if that sounds good. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns before we get started? Anything specific you want to hear about? Wow, everyone, how am I more awake? I got up at 5 o'clock this morning and this group is like still half. I'm screwing around with you guys. All right, let's go. So what changed? Why is this important? Why is the world different now? So statistically, when rates go from being in the 3s, maybe even in the 2s for some of your clients and into the 5s and 6s, right? Simple economics means less buyers in the market. Are there magically less real estate agents in the market right now? Did like a bomb go off at a real estate convention? No, there's hundreds of thousands of real estate agents. There's still tons of them, right? But statistically, the buyer pool got cut in half. If rates go from 3s to 6s, what happens to affordability? Half the buyers that were barely qualifying are now magically poof out of the market, right? So it's not as easy as it is to be great as it was before, right? The last 2.5 years, if you had a pulse and a real estate license, you could sell real estate, right? Now, there's not as much mania driving the market, which brings me to my next point. The emotion and urgency of the market isn't as dramatic as before. What are some of the reasons you guys hear why people are buying houses now? Someone give me a reason you heard recently when you asked your client, why are you buying a house now? What are some of the reasons you guys are hearing?
Growing family.
Growing family. Okay, so growing family. Do they have the ability to not buy a home if they need more room for their children? No, they kind of have to buy, right? What else are we hearing? Someone give me another example.
Relocation.
Okay, these are perfect examples and are painting the picture perfectly for what I'm trying to convey to you guys. People are buying in the market now because they have to, right? Not because before, when rates were in the 2s, do you think there were people making moves just because they wanted to take advantage of low rates? That was happening. Now, people statistically aren't going, oh, I just want to buy a house because it's going to put me to the top end of my affordability because where rates are. They're buying houses out of necessity. They almost have to now, right? So in knowing and thinking about that, it's not as driven by fear and greed as it was the last 2 years, right? FOMO, in my opinion, there's love is the most powerful motivator. I'm going to sound like a total hippie for a second, right? But right after that is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. People don't want to miss out. They hear, oh my God, 2.99% interest rate from Quicken Loans. Oh my gosh, I got to take advantage of that. That's insane. And their boomer parents are like, oh my God, back in my day, rates were 12. This is crazy, right? FOMO is a hardcore driver of behavior, right? People are only buying now if they absolutely have to, right? The selling point, and this is the last thing and the most important. So if you've been watching TikTok puppy videos for the last 5 minutes, just listen to this part and then you can go back to it. The selling point has changed dramatically, right? Dramatically. We're not convincing people now. Before, how many, what out of 10, if you took 10 Zillow Flex connections and you went out and showed, let's say you got in front of 9 of them, how many of them wanted to write an offer on that first house in the last 2 years? 5, 6, right? It was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, hyper transactional. They found the house, they liked it, they want to buy it. Why? Because they were so over the moon that they thought that this property was just going to be sold out from underneath them because there were lines of people out the door, even in Bricktown and all this crazy stuff, right? Just think about that. The selling point has changed. We're not convincing people to buy this house. We're convincing people now on the idea of buying a house in general, right? Has anyone ever seen that movie Inception? You guys are basically Leonardo DiCaprio now. You are planting an idea in someone's head that they should be buying a house or give up their company or whatever it may be, right? The media, and I know I sound like a tin hatter when I say this stuff, but I want you guys to consider what we're kind of stacked against this right now. Mainstream news and media and stuff is not doing us a favor right now. Do you guys ever hear on the news ever? I listen to like Mad Money with that Kramer guy, right? Do you guys ever hear on the news, oh, now's a great time to buy a house, right? Market's fantastic. What do we hear constantly in the market? Oh my gosh, rates, affordability, properties, sky is falling, Chicken Little. Oh my gosh, right? We're up against a wall every time we go out with a client, right? Because all they're hearing on their driving to work on AM 640 is how the market's crappy and it's failing and it's shooting down and blah, 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 blah. The point I'm trying to make is we are now going to have to be twice as skilled. There's one of two things, right? If you want to do the same amount of business you did last year, you're going to have to do one of two things, or the third, which is the magic thing that I want to talk about. First, you're going to have to increase your output. If you want to do the same amount of business you did last year, you're going to have to work twice as hard this year. Why? Because rates economically went from 3 to 6. Guess what happens when that happens? Buyer pool gets smaller, twice as much work to get to the same amount of people, right? It's just math. Or you can 2x your skill set. You can become so much more skilled that you don't have to work any harder, right? That's always a win. You know what? You in this market, if you want to do both of those things, that's the only way you're going to progress. You want to close more houses than you did last year. You're going to have to increase your output and increase your skill set. So congratulations, you showed up to a training. That's a part of it, right? You're improving your skill set so that when you get in front of these people, you're going to have a lot more tactical of an approach. Does that make sense to everyone? Is my pointless rambling making points? Okay, cool. I get on my soapbox once in a while with this stuff. I love it. All right. Can't get rejected if you don't make phone calls. Don't be that guy. That's not good. More caffeine. So nailing the first showing, and I'm going to breeze through this part quickly. Nailing the first showing starts before the showing. For every single one of you guys that went through onboarding, you should remember this post-connection call checklist. Do you guys remember this? Yes? Okay, cool. Post-connection call checklist. I have a double dog dare for everyone on this phone call. Every single person on this phone call is eligible for this. If you're taking Zillow Flex connections, I double dog dare you. And this is coming out of me, out of the humanized world. The first person who prints one of these things out, you have to print it out. I'm going to send it to you guys immediately after this conversation. You print out the post-connection call checklist. And on the very next Zillow connection call that you take, I want you to literally go step by and check off every box on that thing as you do it. The first person who does that, I will send you a gift card of your choice in the mail in the amount of $50. The first person who does it. It can't be oh, I downloaded it and I checked it off. I want you to print it out and have it ready for the next time you take a Zillow Flex connection call. And I want you to check off all the little boxes and sign it at the bottom. And I'm going to put my phone number on Zoom here momentarily. When you send that to me, I will send you a $50 gift card. No bullshit. It's that important, right? Even if you've been working Zillow Flex Connection calls for a long time and you think, oh my God, Chris, I got this thing on lock, right? I promise you that the basics and the fundamentals of this stuff work if you do them, right? As we progress, we start subtracting things and wanting to do it our way. If you do it the right way over and over and over and over and over again, you will have no volatility in your pipeline. It will just be this smooth, consistent dream. Does that sound cool to everyone? Where are we going to ask for this $50 gift card to? I see like probably some Sephora people on this call, some Dunkin' Donuts people on this call. Okay, cool. Ethan wants a TikTok puppy video gift card. Okay, sweet. I'm just screwing with Ethan. All right. So I'm going to send this out after this call. The next thing is the showing intro script. Just to give you guys a high level overview on this, you should already know what this looks like. You guys should be able to see my screen, right? Cool. So it's important that we look at this really quickly before we jump into the script, because in my thought process, in my world, a showing is broken up into 3 parts: before the showing, at the front door, before they enter the house, and then after they see the property, right? The intro script, you guys should, this should look familiar. We cover this in onboarding, right? It's very simple. This is what happens before they enter the house. Are we ever going to let the client just walk into the house without talking to us at all? No. What are we going to do? We're going to put that key in the front door and stand behind it like a security guard at a bar, arms crossed, kind of manned like this, just ready to rock and roll, right? Don't literally do that. That's a little intimidating, done for dramatic purposes. It makes people laugh. Okay, cool. Before the people enter the property, we're going to have a very simple conversation with them, right? The acronym, if you don't remember, is GPS. We're going to game plan, we're going to present our package, and we're going to summarize the stats of the property as they're walking in, right? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I want to spend a meat and potatoes talking about what happens after the showing. But at a high level, we give them a game plan of what's going to happen here at the showing so that when they're done, has anyone ever showed someone a house and they just like run out the front door after they're done and literally are like, bye? I have. It's not fun, right? Why do they do that? Because we don't set a precedent that they should hang out and see the property, right? We don't set a precedent that they should have a conversation with us afterwards. People subconsciously, as crazy as this sounds, every single person on this call, including myself, Joe, Lauren, everyone, subconsciously, we all want a leader, right? You go to a service provider, you are a service provider now, you are a real estate agent, right? People want you to take them by the hand and guide them home, right? You don't go to the doctor and the doctor go, okay, cool, Joe, you got to tell me, what do you think we should do? What do you think the move is here, right? You go to the doctor, so he tells you what the deal is, right? It's the same concept when you're working with clients in a service-based business. Okay, so we give them a high-level overview, what we're going to do, what this property is going to look like, how this conversation is going to sound. We then give them the package. This is why the post-connection call checklist is so important. How many of you guys have showed a house recently and not had a full buyer package prepared for them? It's okay. You can raise your hand. I promise I won't be mad at you. Okay, cool. We got some honest people on this call. That little thing, I know I sound so tedious when I say shit like this, right? But at the end of the day, all of these things cascade into each other and are all things designed to help you build value. Do we think that our clients have seen properties with other agents?
Yes.
Yeah. Hell yeah, they have, right? Do we think that we're the last agent they're ever going to see a house with every single time? No. Sometimes they come in, they bounce around a little bit. They're all over the place. I challenge you guys to think about it like this. Let me draw an analogy for you. So when I was listing houses, I did a 2-step listing process every single time, right? I would show up at Mr. Seller's house. I wouldn't show up with a contract. I would tell him right when I got to the front door, or her, hey, so my main purpose today is I just wanted to get a look at the property and have you show me around. I don't think it's fair for me to come up with a value of your property without actually seeing it, being in it, and seeing what it's like to actually walk around it, right? So what I'd like to do is take a look around today, get some pictures, have you give me the runaround, and then what I'll do is I'll go back to my office, compare it against other comps, and come back another time so that I can give you an actual accurate value of your property. You know why I did that? Because every single other person after me was going to show up there on the first appointment and try and slam their head into a contract and tell them what their house was worth without seeing it, right? What happens when we break that pattern? We become a pattern disruptor. It's different than what they're used to experiencing, right? Every single agent that went after me was discredited, or before me was discredited instantly. Well, how do you know what my house is worth if you didn't compare it and didn't see the pictures first, right? I've heard that, and I've had people say that to me. This is the same concept. When you show up at a showing and you've got a perfect little package of information for your client and you present it to them, do we think that other agents are doing that? Nope. It's a pattern disruptor. People are like, what the hell is this? This is crazy. This is awesome. And little do they know, it took you 5.4 minutes to print out at your office. You did it like slamming a cup of coffee and playing TikTok at the same time, right? It's something so small, but it's so impactful. So we go through package presentation. Hey, I did a bunch of work for you prior to this showing, therefore I'm conveying value to you. And lastly, we summarize the stats of the house, right? Here are the stats of this property. Why is it so important that we walk them through a high-level overview of the house before they see it? What does this do? Someone help me, please.
I guess it sets the expectations for what they're walking into.
Good. What about the idea that, do we know everything about every house ever? No. Statistically, have we been in the house that we're touring right now? Maybe. There's a lot of houses for sale in New Jersey right now, right? It shows the client that we know what we're talking about. It's a micro value builder, right? Oh, okay, just to confirm. So this house is built in 1958. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. It's 2,300 square foot on a 6,000 square foot lot, right? I act like I know what I'm talking about. Do I know what I'm talking about most of the time? Nope, no clue, but I've got a paper in front of me that says what I know what I'm talking about. It's a little way to show the client that we are competent, we are knowledgeable, and we know what's going on. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So client now runs through house. Out of curiosity, does anyone remember this from onboarding? This comment about the house being bugged before you let the client in. Does everyone remember why we do that? Because an agent on Chris's team said that there was an ugly baby to a nanny cam. There was a picture frame in a baby's room of a baby, and there was a nanny cam next to it. And one of our agents' clients got really close to it and said, "Oh my God, what an ugly baby!" And then we heard that from the seller and the listing agent, really when the client wanted that property really, really, really bad, right? So we always make a comment about that. All right, I digress. Let's get back into this thing. So nailing the first showing starts before the showing. Does anyone remember this kid? Linda, listen. Remember this kid? I can't show you houses until you speak to a mortgage lender. Don't be that guy. Show people houses. They will get pre-qualified. Don't be that kid. All right. So let's get into the important part here where I want to spend a majority of our time today. Just this link that's supposed to be clickable, but it's not. Okay, cool. So I'm going to send you guys this script so you guys all have it. I'm also going to blow this up so it's a little bit bigger. Okay, is that better? Can you guys see this now?
Mhm.
Okay. So this script is known as How to Build Value with a Buyer in 10 Minutes or Less. To remind you guys, you're basically going on a bunch of blind first dates, right? This is not like, and this is the important part. This is the part where I'd pay attention. This is not one of those things where you have trust equity built, right? You guys probably remember me saying that during onboarding a lot. When you're working with repeat and referral clients, right? If I'm Joe's realtor and Joe's going to refer me to Lauren, Joe and Lauren are out one night, they're eating burritos, they're having fun. And Joe says to Lauren, "Oh my gosh, Lauren, you want to buy a house? You call Chris Giannos. He's the coolest cat on the planet," right? Glasses are a little nerdy, but he's a great guy and gets deals done. What does Lauren now have instantaneously? She trusts Joe, right? Innately. And Joe says, "Hey, Chris is a good dude. What does Lauren have in me already?" She hasn't even talked to me yet. What does she think of me? I have trust. Right? She has value built. She's like, okay, this is a real person. When you guys connect with a stranger off the internet, right? Like, how creepy does that sound? Think about that for a second. You are connecting with a stranger on the internet that wants to buy a house. Do we think there is an innate amount of value built that where they're just like, okay, cool, I trust Lori, right? They're like, no, dude, they don't know Lori. They just came across you just swiped right on Tinder, basically, right? You have no clue what's going on. Crappy analogy, but hear me out. You have no clue what's going on, right? So when we're having these conversations, it is our job now more than ever, because the market was so manic the last 2 years that now we're scrapping. We have to get in there and build value quickly, because when we don't, guess what happens? If someone else builds a little more value than us, and I've had this happen a million times, right? So this isn't something unique where I'm sitting up here going, it never happened to me. I had to come up with this stuff because this happened constantly to me or my team members, right? Where they would show houses. I had people show 15, 20 houses over the course of like 3 months. And then on the closing line, the buyer goes dark, right? They walked into an open house and went with the listing agent, right? That it happens. In knowing that, that's why we came up with this thing, right? We have to be more scrappy. And I updated it last night specifically for this market, because what worked the last 2 years, what worked to get us here is not going to work to get us there. We have to make changes. Is that something I can get bought in from all you guys on? Right? We're willing to get uncomfortable. Okay, cool. So this script, the most important part on this entire thing, print it out, right? Don't be that guy. Like I was that kid in high school where like the teacher gave us like an important piece of homework and I just like threw it in my backpack and never looked at it again, right? Don't be that guy. Print this thing out, put it in your buyer package, and literally you can walk around a showing with your folder and just kind of glance at it while you're talking. It's designed to be as tactical as humanly possible. It's not written like a talk track. It's written like a script, right? Just like ALMSS, the same way that you would run ALMSS with your clients. I want you guys to start looking at this thing. It's a little bit longer, but when you define this process, it starts coming out of your face second nature. Does that make sense? Cool. So part one, unique selling prop and hook, right? This happens after the showing. Where are we having this conversation out of curiosity? We're now going to lay it on thick and try and win this client. Where are we having this conversation?
The driveway.
Okay. What other answers do we have? Driveway.
The sidewalk in front of the house.
Yeah, I would get as far away from the house as humanly possible. Why? I have a ring doorbell on my driveway that I can hear people, right? So like, let me give you an example. I have a basketball hoop in my driveway, right? Last night, there were children playing basketball on my basketball hoop at like 11:30. I got on my ring doorbell or ring camera and was like, yo, can you, Michael Jordan, please stop dribbling the ball. Thank you, right? Like they can hear you. This is advantageous to get a little bit of distance away from the property. Because if we're going to talk specifics about the house, do you want the listing agent or the seller to hear you call the house like, hey, this needs a lot of love. I think we can really negotiate on this one. That's like playing poker with your back to the table and your cards like this, right? It's just showing all of our cards way too early. So this is happening after the showing, down the street, hood of car, wherever it needs to be, right? So Ozzy, buying the right home. This is literally what I would say to someone. We're using our favorite test subject, Ozzy Osbourne, right? Buying a home right now is very challenging in this super weird market we're in. Out of curiosity, how's your home search been going up to this point so far? I'm going to read through this with you guys because I really want to give you guys the why here. Been all right. We've done a lot of searching on Zillow, Redfin, blah, blah, blah. Awesome. You know what? I get it. It's crazy out there. What I have learned, at least in my experience, Ozzy, is that most agents do not have a plan to proactively help their clients, right? Instead, they just kind of show them homes that they could have seen themselves online. What are you guys getting when you tell someone that? What is that doing? We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's discrediting everything every other agent has done up to this point so far, right? Are agents normally going above and beyond? They usually just put someone on an MLS strip and say, screw it, right? Figure it out. That's what happens 9 out of 10 times. When we're saying things like this is what happens when we can start poking holes in other people's boats. Not like a douchebag, not like a scumbag where we're not having good business ethics, right? But we want to win. We want to win these clients over. And we do that by conveying more value than everyone else. So that's why here at the Oz Group, we've developed a proven strategy to assist our clients in finding the right home at the right location, at the right price, or excuse me, the right terms, and most importantly, the right price. You guys see, even when I'm practicing this with you guys, what am I really focusing on doing? These pauses and commas and stuff in here are very intentional. We're slowing down. Our tonality is changing. We're trying to get impactful. Does that make sense to you guys? We're trying to let these people know what's going on. Is that something you would be interested in hearing about, right? Has anyone ever heard of a tie down? Do we know what a tie down is in sales? So a tie down is asking a question and getting them to nod their heads like this. If you guys have noticed, I've been using tie downs with you our entire conversation so far, right? When I say, does this make sense? And everyone's like, yeah, it makes sense. That's a tie down, right? And I'm not trying to screw with you guys. I'm just being honest, right? This is a skill set that starts coming out of you as you practice it. So is that something you would be interested in hearing about? We're collecting yeses at this point. Yes, tell me more. I want to know more. We're going to go to part 2, agenda setting and teeing up expectations. I have some notes in here that are very important for you guys to take note of before you talk about this stuff. Always start with the mindset of a consultant, not a salesperson. Discover their problems and challenges in finding the right home. hear a lot from a lot of different realtors and stuff and teams I work with that like no one wants to sound like a used car salesman, right? If you sold used cars on this call, please don't come for my head. I get it. It's a great business. I have a lot of friends that made a lot of money doing that. Where I'm going with this is you don't have to sound like a used car salesman or a slimy salesman, right? You can sound tactful and intelligent. You're asking questions to discover pain, and then you're going to offer remedy to that pain. That's what good sales is, right? It's walking people to self-discovery, right? Be a resource and be resourceful, solve their problem. Prepare your environment and presentation for the first showing. Remove sales barriers or distractions, whatever it may be. Is it super easy to have this type of conversation with 3 kids running around with a Dalmatian puppy and having a water balloon fight? No. Have I ever done that exact scenario? Yes, I have, right? Live after a showing. It was insane. They had water balloons in their car. It's one of those things where you kind of got to control your environment, right? If you have to slow down, give the kid a lollipop, whatever it may be, you're trying to set up the environment where you can get 10 minutes with these people. That's all you'll need with this, right? Let me ask you guys, it may or may not be a trick question. Ideally, where is the best place to have this conversation? Not in terms of location, right? But ideally, do you want to meet with this person at the property? Do you want to meet with them at the office? Do you want to meet with them at a Starbucks? Where is the best place to meet with these people? Trick question.
I don't think there is a right place. It's just having a conversation.
Perfect. 10 points to Gryffindor. All right. Anywhere they are willing to talk to you is where you want to have this conversation. The important part is that it happens. It doesn't have to be perfect. The Dalmatian 3 kids water balloon fight, I nailed that thing, right? Because I was having to snap with the parents every so often to like make sure they were like still breathing, right? Because they were watching the kids running. It was crazy, right? But it's one of those things where you have this conversation at any perfect time. Okay, let's keep this thing going. Okay, so what happens next is we want to kind of get an idea and give the client an idea of what's going to happen next. When we just jump into things, I gave you guys an agenda for this conversation so that you guys knew how long you were going to have to maintain your attention span for, right? It's the same concept when we're having conversations with our clients. We want to give them an idea. So based on what you've told me, I'm positive that I can help you find your next home. What I'd quickly like to do, if you're cool with it, we're asking for permission, right? Is quickly run through some Q&A with you to better understand your home search and scenario. We can then talk about the home buying process in this new market. And lastly, we'll cover how working with the Oz Group is different than any other team. Does that sound good? Does that sound good? What is that doing?
Tie down.
Tie down, David, my man. It's a tie down. We're asking, does this sound great? The more yeses we can collect, the better, right? Has anyone ever heard that? You collect yeses in the hopes that when you ask them a really definitive question, they've said yes enough to say yes again. Sales psychology is very real. All right. So yes, totally. Are buyers always going to be this willing? Probably not. They might be a little less enthused until we get to the good part. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So I apologize in advance for the next 20 questions. Ha, 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 right? And if it's okay with you, I'm going to take some notes on my phone while you are talking. What is that doing? Again, we want them to feel like we are providing them value, right? Asking for permission to take notes. They're like, oh crap, this guy's not screwing around. This person's the real deal. The important part here is take notes. If you're going to do that, you actually have to take them, right? Because they are hyper valuable for you to know. Does anyone on this call have a photographic perfect memory? I double dog dare someone to raise their hand. Nope. Okay. Cool. Sometimes there's one person, right? I have a friend who does. It's insane. He's really good at chess. We don't have photographic memories, right? This is the opportunity for you to pull up Follow Up Boss on your phone and literally just throw up on it, right? I met an agent the other day at an event that literally turned on the voice recorder thing on their phone, like when you can talk to text, and had notes transcribe their entire conversation, right? How crazy is that? That's next level, working on something around that. Okay. So I apologize in advance for the next 20 questions, right? I'm going to take some notes on my phone if that's cool. You don't have to ask all 20 of these questions, right? I think there's like 25 I put on here. You got to go with the flow, right? If you just interrogate someone with 25 questions in a row, they're going to be like, please stop, right? Be very intentional with what you ask. What do we think some of the most important questions are? If you had to pick one, what would be the first one you pick off this list?
Bedrooms, bathrooms.
Cool. That's an important one. What do we think the most important is
Number 2.
in this market? Yeah, who said that?
Well,
David?
price.
Did David say number 2?
Yeah,
That is-
number 2.
That is by far, and not to say the other ones aren't important, right? But I want to talk to you guys about, and I put it number 2, not number 1 on purpose, so that someone would, I hope someone would pay attention to it and get it. In this market, we just talked about this, right? We're not convincing people to buy this specific house. We are Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception. We're planting the idea in their head to buy a house in general, right? That's what we're doing. The motivator isn't mania anymore. It's not FOMO. It's okay. It changed completely. Now we're like, hey, well, listen, marry the house, date the rate. Right? Have you ever heard anyone say that recently? That's a thing. It's real talk. You're having to convince someone to sacrifice up front to make this happen. Does that sound fun? No, they want their cake and they want to eat it too, right? I want that good house and I want it at a 3% interest rate. Cool, Mr. Buyer, right? That's just not going to happen right now. It's a lot harder of a sale. When you ask this question, why are you looking to make a move? It will tell you everything you need to know to put, this sounds horrible, but we're like putting the boot on the neck, right? We're getting some pressure on here now. We're knowing what the motivator is, right? Are they always going to tell you exactly what you need to know if you ask the question once? No. Has anyone ever heard this? This is really important, and I would write this down. This is going too wise deep. Has anyone ever heard that before? Too wise deep. So it's very simple. So David, tell me why you're moving to Point Pleasant, New Jersey, right? Typically, you're going to get some answers like, oh, well, we really like the area. And yeah, we really like the area. Is that the real reason? No, they don't just like it. Why do you like it? Tell me more about that. You're going a second why deep. That's usually when you uncover the truth. Well, actually, my husband and I just had a newborn and we're losing our minds because we can't sleep at night. And my mother-in-law lives in Point Pleasant and she said she would help us if we moved closer to her, right? We can actually sleep again. That's your motivation, right? That's the important part that you have to capture, right? Because when we start trying to tie this person down and ask definitive questions like, hey, are you willing to work with me exclusively, right? You can start using that as ammunition, right? That why. That's what we're really after. So I would pick off, and this is where this becomes interactive and what you guys can do. As you're refining the script, I would select like 5 to 10 questions on here that you feel are valuable. Number 2 being the very first question you ask, right? All this other stuff, this is just ideally getting what's going on, right? What are 5 things you can't live without in your new home? What's your timing? How soon would you like to be in the home, right? Obviously, property specifics are important, but I would be a lot more focused on why they are making a move. That is where you want to spend a lot of your time. Does that make sense to everyone? Another question that you cannot skip on here, and I do this to make sure everyone's listening, is number 25, right? I've asked you so many questions now. You guys have probably heard me say this on trainings before. I say it a lot. Hey, I'm sorry I kind of just like threw up on you. I typically like to kind of get all that out so that I can answer a lot of questions along the way. But what kind of questions do you have for me, right? I say that on presentations I do myself, right? Typically, people will have questions and they want them answered. And this is your opportunity to do it. It shows them that you're listening. Does this make sense to everyone? Cool. Last part on here. Second to last part. We're explaining today's home buying process. Is anyone doing this now out of curiosity? Are we doing this after the showing? Kind of, sort of, kind of, a little bit? Okay, cool. Is it this exact structure or is there some stuff that's new on here for you guys? There's some new stuff. Okay, cool. So explaining today's home buying process, right? This is where we start planting little seeds of value to get them to try and commit to us, right? So Mr. Ozzy Osbourne, let me explain to you today's home buying process real quick. And because again, right now the market is very unique. It's changed. What worked over the last 2 years is no longer working. And most agents aren't equipped to handle that change. So how we find success in the process kind of goes like this, right? You're going to explain to them kind of step by step how this all goes down. Has anyone ever heard the term catastrophizing before? Anyone ever heard that? It's a psychology term. What does it mean? It means we spin things out in our head and make them exponentially worse than they are because we don't know what's going to happen, right? People do that when they're unclear on process. If we give them a clear-cut idea of how the process sounds, they're not spun out anymore. So how we find success in the process is like this, Mr. Ozzy Osbourne. First, you choose an agent to represent you. ideally me, right? And I would literally say that. I've done that a thousand times. If you say that, you shoot your shot, it's super important, right? I would say it every single time. Ideally, that's me. And they start laughing. The mood gets a little lighter. It's a little more inviting. I know it sounds corny, but the reason you guys are experiencing this like agent homie hopping is because we're not tying people down and we're not building enough value, right? When you start tying people down and asking for the business, we're not asking them to sign their life away. We're just asking them to commit to us, right? And it's something that can happen as long as you ask. You meet with a lender to understand the entire process and make sure you like what your all-in payment looks like. You keep a really close eye on Zillow, which everyone sees, while I go and find the juicy off-market properties using my secret real estate ninja powers. You don't have to say this exact. I'm a goofball. If you guys haven't noticed, I like to say really dumb off the wall things. If you're a more polished of a presenter, you can find ways to make the same point, right? But I like to keep it fun. I find that if I can make my clients laugh, right, I got them, right? The same way I'm trying to make this funny for you guys. I make you laugh, you're more inclined to pay attention and get something out of the training. Does that sound right? Okay. Once we scour all the available on-market and off-market inventory, and you find the house that fits all of your must-haves, I negotiate my literal face-off to make sure your offer gets accepted. It's not as easy as just submit offers and then get accepted anymore, right? There's a lot of skill that goes into this. How do people form their opinions about buying and selling real estate? Have you guys ever watched like $1 Million Listing or Selling Sunset or House Hunters International, right? Like I'm an underwater basket weaver. My husband's a crypto miner. Our budget is $40 million. You ever seen those memes? You know what I'm talking about? Cool. People develop their opinions about how buying and selling real estate works by watching reality TV shows, right? Or House Hunters that was filmed in 1999, where they're like, we're coming in at 20% under ask and we're going to get all of our closing cost covers credit, right? It's not real. So we have to make it a point to let them know that these things require skill, right? It's not just as easy as submit offers and get them accepted. There's a lot of skill that goes into this. Most agents aren't even talking about this. Once we open escrow, we then conduct a thorough home inspection and appraisal to make sure the home is worth it from the bank's perspective and review all seller disclosures to make sure we like the story that is being told. Once we feel good about everything, we've negotiated any potential repair credits or closing cost credits. I'm really good at this too, right? Saying things like that, I'm going to win for you. I'm going to go to bat for you. We close and you move into your new home. It's just, again, we're providing value in some sort of way. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly recap that. So Mr. Evan Beach, let's recap. You want to buy a house that has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a mother-in-law suite with big, comfy, lazy boy chairs in it, and lots of peanut M&Ms in little jars. I'm talking about Evan Beach's back house where I stayed one time. And you also want a home with blank, 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 close to the beach where we can go surf, and it's going to be really awesome. Did I miss anything? We're parroting this back to them. Does everyone know what parroting means? We're recapping, so it shows that we were actually listening to them, right? It just shows people that we knew what was going on. All right, let's get to the most important part, which is the close here. Okay, so how many of you guys, out of curiosity by show of hands, and there's no wrong answers here, I'm just trying to get a pulse for what's going on now. How many of you guys are asking for the business? You're asking your client if they will work with you. Okay, cool. This is the most important part by far, right? Have you guys ever heard that saying, shoot or shoot? What was Shia LaBeouf saying in the beginning of this stupid training that we're doing right now? Just do it, right? Nike, just whatever you want to look at. Just if you forget everything else on here, right? And you just remember to ask your client if they will work with you, your conversion rate will improve. If you forgot everything else on here and just did that one thing, you would see your business pick up more, right? I'm not saying do that. I'm saying use all of it because it works really well in conjunction with itself, right? So Ozzy, now that I really understand what is truly important to you and you have a crystal clear idea of how the home buying process works with my team, I want to spend some time quickly explaining what I do different than any other agent out there. I really go to bat for my clients in a very real way, and I take this extremely seriously, right? When you make the decision to hire me, you'll understand that I do much more than the average agent. From me, you can expect the following, or you can hold me accountable to the following, right? We're now just going to throw up value on them. So they're like, what the hell is this guy talking about, right? I only work with a small number of great clients like you to ensure personal touch. Think of how important class sizes are in school, right? I preview properties daily and weekly to make sure I'm not wasting your time showing you stuff you're not going to like. I'm not just going to throw you on an MLS strip and keep my fingers crossed that you like something and reach out to me. What do most agents do when they get a client? That. They throw them on an MLS strip and go, okay, cool. Cross their fingers, eyes, and toes that the client's going to reach back out to them. The client is doing all of the work, right? I want you guys to think about it from a service provider standpoint. People don't want to just spend, sure, some people do, right? Does anyone have any clients that you get like notifications from at like 3 a.m. where they're like on Zillow, just like crushing property? Yeah, some people are just psychotic, right? But for the most part, your clients want you to work for them, right? I'm not going to just throw you on a drip and keep my fingers, eyes, and toes crossed that you like something. What is that instantly going to do to every other, when you say something like that and they've had that experience, what does that do? It makes you different, right? You're breaking the pattern here. You're a pattern disruptor. I reach out to my extensive network of agents. Do you guys have an extensive network of agents? Yeah, every single person on this call is in your extensive network of agents. Evan Beach is in your extensive network of agents, right? We know everyone and everything that is going on in the shore in California, wherever you got clients pop in. Either I have clients there, or Joe's got friends there, Evan's got clients there. You guys all have friends there, right? You guys have access to properties that are pre-market. You just got to shoot your shot, right? I use a magic letter. Yes, it's really magic to find off-market properties. Have you guys ever done this for a client? Just to digress real quick, because this would be a really cool super second training to do. Has anyone ever used a magic letter to try and find a property for a client?
Yeah,
Okay,
I have, Chris.
they're sick. They're really cool, and we'll do another training on that because that's a super fun thing to do. I say this stuff, and I know you guys are like, Chris, this is a lot. I say this shit on every presentation I've gone on, right? Since we developed this thing about 2 years ago, I've said this almost exactly to the T. This is like literally coming out of my face in script mode, right? This stuff all adds up, right? The magic letter sounds corny, but people are like, what the hell is that magic letter, bro? What does that do? What does that even mean, right? It's like magic. It's fairy dust. I research bank-owned properties and notice the defaults if available. I will actively door knock communities you like to find a home where we're unable to find one active market. Has anyone ever done that? You want your client to run through brick walls and follow you into a burning building? When there's no more inventory left, create inventory. You can door knock, you can send letters, you can circle prospect. When you start doing that for people, that's when your clients give you big fancy watches as Christmas presents. I may or may not have gotten that before, right? Clients will run through walls for you when you start doing stuff like that. I will only show you property that matches what you want. Those 20 questions earlier had a promise. Ha 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 ha. Right? I will negotiate fiercely on your behalf. No one is better in the game. I'm not in this business to just close deals and get paid. I find that when I focus purely on helping my clients win, I win by proxy, right? When I help people, I make money. It's really that simple. Saying that to someone, what are people's perceptions of real estate agents for the most part? Do we have the greatest reputation on the planet? No, we are lower on the totem pole of trusted professionals than used car salesmen and plumbers. If you didn't know that, that's a fact. It comes out every year of trusted professionals, right? Used car salesmen and plumbers are more trustworthy than real estate agents in the consumer's eyes. Is that good for us? No, people don't trust us farther than they can throw us. I'll work closely with your lender and our affiliates to ensure a smooth transaction, and most importantly, close on time and as stress-free as possible. At the end of the day, buying a home, Gabrielle, can be very, very stressful. And my job is to burden all that stress and remove all of it out of the way so that this is a good experience for you. Does that make sense? And then I highlighted this is the only thing highlighted on the page. This is the most important thing. If you forget everything else, ask this one question, right? So I know I've asked you about 1 million questions today, Bob, but I have one final question. Is it safe to assume that you and I can work together to find your next home? And then what do you do when you ask that question? What's the next step? You shut up, right? You stop talking and you pause, right? You have to do it. It's the most uncomfortable thing on the planet. Has anyone ever been in a situation where someone like feels you out? They're like, who's going to talk first? Who's going to lose? I did phone sales for like 5 years at Zillow before I got into this side of the business. They called it the awkward pause. And it was like where deals were made or done. The first person to talk loses, right? If you built a crazy amount of value up to here and you asked that question, What are they going to say half the time? Probably more than half the time, 60, 65% of the time. They're going to go, yeah, absolutely. This is great, right? What's going to happen the other 35 or 40%? About half the time of that, so around 20%, they're going to say, oh, well, we're just getting started and we'll be in contact and blah, 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 blah. Is that the end of the world if they say that? No, it's great. That means you just follow up with them. At least you asked. If you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? The other 20%-ish of the time, they're going to say something like, well, this was super informative. I just don't know if we're ready to commit to one agent yet, blah, 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 blah. What is the response there? Okay, great. Is it okay if I follow up with you in 2 days at 7 p.m., right? You're always leaving this appointment with a second appointment every single time, no matter what. Does this make sense to you guys? Cool. So let's get through the rest of this thing. I'll have you guys out of here in less than 9 minutes. So frequently made mistakes. So now that we've gone through the script, which I'm going to send out to you guys, and you guys should print out, right? And literally read like a script at your next showing. You're not prepared for the showing. If you don't have your buyer package ready for the client, it doesn't matter if you show, like it doesn't matter. If you don't have information about the property from the listing agent, as far as what kind of terms and offers are going to be acceptable and all this cool stuff, it doesn't matter. You're not prepared to win, right? There is no such thing as luck in residential real estate. There's preparation meeting opportunity. That's it, right? No luck. It's just, I was prepared and an opportunity presented itself and I took advantage of that opportunity, right? Not dressed to impress. I know this sounds cheesy and like total realtor stuff. My general rule of thumb, ladies, you guys, I have no clue about ladies fashion. So you guys do whatever's going to work, right? Boys, men, whatever, collared shirt every showing. If you don't want to wear a collared shirt, at least throw on a blazer over your t-shirt, right? I promise you that by elevating your game a little bit, people will take you more seriously. I looked like a child until I grew a beard. I still look like a child if I shave my beard. When I go out on appointments with people that are more important than me, my always cheat code is glasses because it makes me look like a refined young gentleman, and a collared shirt. It's just a cheat code. You got to like look the part, right? Low energy and texting during the appointment. I know this sounds like common sense, but I've been on showings with people where they're literally like, I'm not kidding you, clients upstairs looking around the house and they're downstairs on like Instagram. That is not the move. The only time your phone should be out during a showing is if you're taking notes from the client on what they are looking for. That's it. If you want someone to feel like you're not important, have you guys ever been talking to someone and they're sitting there on their phone like this and keep looking up at you? How does that make you feel? This person's not paying attention to me, right? This person doesn't care. They're not respecting my time. What a dork. Not asking for the business. That yellow thing at the end is the most important part. All you have to do is that and it'll increase your business, right? But shoot or shoot, you have to do that. And then last but not least, we talked about this, not following the script that I just gave you and I'm going to send out to you. I double dog dare you, right? That means you guys have to do it. It's one of those things. It's like an unsung rule. You're basically pinky swearing right now that you're going to do it. Print it out, bring it with you to your next showing. And I promise you this, is it going to be super uncomfortable doing something a new way? Hell yeah. It's going to be super weird. And you guys are going to be like, what the hell is this? This does not feel right. Guess what? The first time you do it is the hardest. The second time you do it will be what? Easier. And then the third time you do it will be even easier. And then the fourth time you do it, you'll be like, wow, I got this thing on lock, right? Just don't be afraid to change because this sounds like doom and gloom, but it is reality. The market has shifted and what we did for the last 2 years to find success is no longer going to work. We don't have to fundamentally change our entire process and do something completely brand new, but we have to change the way we're approaching buyers because there are less of them in the market and the number of agents is still the same. That means we're going to have to work twice as hard, twice as skilled to increase our business this year. Does this make sense to you guys? Cool. All right. Questions. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, things they need clarity on, places you think I could improve this training, anything?
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Sure.
Typically, how long does it take to get through that whole, the questions, the conversation at the sidewalk? How long does that all take?
So I wrote on there 10 minutes, ironically, right? Because if you aim for 10, you'll do it in 15 or 20, right? If I tell you it's 15 or 20 minutes, you'll do it in 30 or 45, right? So aim for 10, go through it at a good pace, and it should take you 15 to 20 minutes long.
And what if I have multiple showings with the same client that day? Am I doing this after every single showing?
Nope, I would do it before they leave at some point. So when it doesn't matter if you do it on the first one or the last one, right?
All
I
right,
would
cool.
just you want to make it a point the first time you meet a client, no matter what, the very first time you meet them. I don't care if you have to like pull out a pair of handcuffs and handcuff them to you, right? Probably don't do that. You'll end up on like C-SPAN or something. 48 hours. It would be messy. So don't do that. But the importance of this conversation is it's real, right? You have to have it by any means necessary, right? I found that when you don't set an agenda is typically when it gets away from you, right? When you're at the front door telling them what's going to go down, if you don't give them an expectation of, hey, this is what's going to happen after the showing, that's when people just walk in and, okay, cool. Thanks later, man. We'll call you, right? You're on your heels. You're chasing them out the front door and it sucks. They need to know that in order to get what they want, which is to see the house, they're going to have to hear your stinky realtor coffee breath conversation after. That's a joke. Not everyone has stinky coffee breath like me. I can literally like taste it right now. It's so early. All right, cool. What else we got?
Hey, Chris, Joe Giamanco.
All right, sir.
One of the things I find with especially first time home buyers, and it's probably 50% of them,
Sure.
they don't realize, like, they always ask me like, oh, well, how do we pay you? Like, they don't realize, when you say, oh, you want to hire me, like, oh, how do we pay you? Like, they don't realize the process in terms of that they don't have to pay us. Like, we're working for them and it comes from the sell
So
side. So I don't know if there's a way to address that or, or just
So what
kind
is
of go with
that?
the flow.
Joe, that gives you a good opportunity to like further education dump on them, right? About like how the process works, right? The
Right.
good news is you don't have to pay me directly. The seller of this property pays me actually, right? So my services with you are locked up. Hiring me costs you zero technically.
Right, exactly, which is
So
typically how it goes.
don't be afraid to have that conversation, right? People don't know what they don't know. And it's like a great opportunity for you to tell them that.
Sure. And one other question, when you talked about not being downstairs on your phone, TikToking while they're looking around.
Yeah. please don't.
I've had a number of occasions where, actually one couple even said to me, like, can you stop following us around? Like they were uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I
So
wasn't following them, but and listen, that's rare occasion, but what I do is I just ask them, like, do you want to tour it yourself? And then if you have any questions, or do you want me to come with you? Like, obviously it's a case by case, but
yeah, that's a great question. So if you guys on the showing process script that I'm going to send you, that GPS that happens before the showing, right? I typically assume that I'm not going to follow anyone, Joe, right? Like sometimes people will I found that given the opportunity, if you ask them if they want you to tour with them, most of the time they're going to say no. And like, I kind of want to be able to walk through it with them. So the way I usually end that is, okay, great. So this house is a 3-bed, 2-bath. It's 2,300 square feet on a 6,000 square foot lot. It was built in 1958. What I'm going to do is give you guys the freedom to kind of just run around this thing, take a peek at your own leisure. And I'll be within earshot in case you guys have any questions, right? And what they'll usually say is, oh, that's awesome. They'll walk 10 feet and ask you a question.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And then okay, I can kind of tag along with these people. But even in that sense, dude, I was rarely in the same room. I'm kind of just walking through the house like I'm tailing them and I'm an FBI agent, right? Trying to stay a little anonymous, but like not, because if they're starting to ask you questions, that's great, right? That means we're in the right spot. You can have dialogue with them. You just got to use people's body language and like take social cues if they don't want you to follow them around, right? Like if they're speaking a different language. So like, let me give you an example, right? In Orange County, where I'm at specifically, it's like a melting pot of all the cultures in the world. And it's awesome, right? If they speak perfect English and they're in the room next to you speaking Chinese or Mandarin, right? They probably want some privacy because they're trying to have you not hear what they're saying, right? So just use social cues, just feel it out, right? People will tell you what they want to do based on body language and all that stuff. And I know that's intangible and it's hard, but if you pay attention and think about it like that, people will tell you what they want you to do.
Thanks, Chris.
No worries. All right, cool. Any other questions?
Hey, Chris, I have a question for everyone.
Sure.
Just so everyone can hear this. How important is confidence and tonality when running through this script?
So that's a great question. And I was going to put something along those lines, but that's like another training in itself. And I wanted to keep this super tactical, but it is everything, Gabrielle, everything, right? Even if you guys notice on this call specifically, I'm 4,000 miles away from you guys right now, and I'm a little speck on a screen. how am I making this training more impactful? How am I making this training more exciting and full of energy, right? I'm literally like bouncing on the balls of my feet, talking with my hands, smiling like a psycho, right? Why? Because it brings energy to the conversation. So Gabrielle is 100% right. Tonality, inflection is the most important part. When you start saying things, you guys notice when I'm trying to make a point, what do? I slow down. I enunciate every word, and I have you guys all on this tip of your seat. Like, what the hell is this guy going to say next? Right? It's intentional. It keeps the flow going. So great point. Super important. And there's like a separate training we can do on that too, to how to cheat, because I like cheating in a good way. Positive connotation cheating. All right, cool. Autumn.
Hey, I don't totally know how to like even ask this. So yeah, just bear with me.
Sure.
So I have clients right now who kind of have an idea in their own head. And as I try to kind of like explain the market to them, they're just like you were saying about the media and how that is not helping us. Like they just they want me to lie to them. I feel like they want to know what they believe is true, even though it's not. And I'm having a difficult time getting them to know, like, you can't just say you're going to buy this house. Like you have to play this negotiation game, and you have to put your skin in it too.
Sure.
You can't just be like, well, this is what I want, so it's going to happen. And obviously I would never say that to someone, but I don't know how to kind of motivate them to see that counter is good.
Can I challenge you for a second?
Of course.
Can I like push your brain to like think about it differently?
Yes.
You have to challenge them, right? And I think that you're like not wanting to do that comes from a place. Are you a fairly new agent, Autumn?
Oh, brand new.
Okay, cool. Congratulations. I too, technically, I've had my license for like 3 or 4 years at this point. So like I'm technically brand new too. Think about it like this. You have to challenge your clients. When you don't challenge your clients is when you get stuck in a hamster wheel, right? Where they want something to happen. It's not realistic. If what they want to do, Autumn, is not realistic, right? I know it's hard when you're unsure if it's good or not to like challenge people, right? But that's where I would encourage you to tag in Gabrielle, tag in Joe, right? Hey, I got this counter that I think looks good. How do I have this conversation with my client, right? I told every agent on my team for their first couple of transactions, if you're writing an offer, Gabrielle, or you're getting to that point, tag someone else in. It's not the end of the world, and there is no shame in asking for help. Call Gabrielle. Hey, I got a client that I want to write an offer on, right? I got this situation. Can you and I game plan this, or can you make the call with me to help me convey this to them, right? It's hard.
Definitely.
It's hard as a new agent to like feel comfortable telling someone no, because we're afraid what? We tell them no, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to stop picking up our phone calls, right? But the same way I just asked you, Gabrielle, or excuse me, Autumn, of, hey, can I challenge you for a second? You can say that to your clients, right? Hey, can I be like extremely transparent with you for a second? Can I be really blunt with you, right? When you ask for permission to kind of school them, it takes the shield down a little bit, right? But as a new agent, don't think you have to have all the answers, because you don't, and that's okay, right? Almost all of us have been in that spot before where it's like, shit, I don't know what to say. Just tag someone in. There is no I would rather have you call me or Slack. I'm on Slack too. You ever want to jump on me, Gabriella, Joe, whoever, just tag someone in, because I promise you that 2 heads are always better than 1, right? And we can help you work through that scenario. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I feel like, when I kind of give the advice that I might collaboratively get when I talk to Gabriella,
Sure.
and I bring it back to the client, they're just kind of like, okay, cool, but we're still going to do it our way.
So you have to, that's probably a conviction problem, right? Or I'm not saying it'll work every time, right? There's no way to know people. There's the ultimate variable. There's thousands of different outcomes, right? But like, if you tell someone something and they still say, I want to do it my way, I would tell them again, right? As hard as that sounds to do and as uncomfortable as that sounds, well, I think you guys should come in. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house. It's in Asbury Park. It's listed for $820. I think we should come in at $830 or $835 to get the deal done. There's multiple offers still, et cetera, et cetera. And they go, well, we want to come in at this, right? Okay. I just want you guys to be prepared that that's not going to work, right?
Okay.
I talked to the other party, right? And this is what they gave me. I can tell you and sit here and just paint this picture of exactly what you want to hear. But if your ultimate goal is to get the house, that's not going to work. Right.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be super uncomfortable and you're going to be like, and it's going to suck. But like that challenging your clients, I promise you, if you push them a little bit, it will yield good results. It might not work instantaneously either. Sometimes clients need the market to kick their butt a little bit in order to like feel it. The market will teach them, right? But it becomes really important that you maintain like enthusiasm and positivity, because if they get their ass kicked too much, then they're doing the, oh, well, we're just going to put it on hold for a little bit. Right.
Okay. No, that's
Makes sense.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Ethan.
Awesome. Appreciate this. My question is, when you're on the initial appointment and you find out that that buyer has a home sale contingency, what is your favorite approach to handling that kind of buyer, especially when you're at the initial appointment and you find this out?
So what is every other realtor on the planet going to do when they hear that they have a property to sell?
Their eyes will light up and they'll ask about it.
Yeah. Oh my God, what's the address? When can I come over and do a listing presentation? This is great, right? They'll just go straight for the jugular. They don't know you. You don't know them, right? You got to build some value first. So I would say, okay, that's awesome. Congratulations. Sounds like it's a really exciting time in your life. You need to sell a property in order to buy one. That's awesome. What time do you want to go see this property tomorrow? Right? You're just do the script, pretend like you heard it, acknowledge it, Ethan, and then move on. And then once you're at the showing, that's when you can dig a little deeper. I wouldn't consider asking about their other property until after you've gone through a consult with them and built a crazy amount of value first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if it's on like the initial phone call, kind of just skip it over like any other objection.
That's awesome. Congratulations. We can totally talk about that at our showing tomorrow. Did 4 o'clock still work for you to go check out that house? You're going to shoot your shot in person, Ethan, and I can send you a script I've got on that stuff. But like,
yeah, I was curious if you had like some kind of script on.
Yeah, I've got a talk track for it. It's essentially like a reverse objection, right? It's like another thing that we need to talk about on the call, right? Or excuse me, at the in-person showing. But I found that asking about, you don't just ask someone that's a stranger, hey, can I come over and see your house? Right? It's like, this isn't TikTok where that guy's like, hey, nice to see you. Can I come up and tour your apartment? Has anyone seen those weird TikToks where they're like go inside people's apartments? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, cool. It's the same concept, right? Like you got to build a little value before you can ask for permission. Does that make sense to you then?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll send you some stuff over. Cool. Evan Beach.
What's up, my man? How are you? This is awesome. Great value. Hope everybody's taking a ton out of this because Chris is the man. Question, regarding, and this isn't a selfish question regarding mortgages, but actually Dave and I were talking about it just last week as far as when to breach the subject of, hey, is somebody pre-approved and how do you go down that road? Because you can nail this whole presentation that Chris is talking about, but ultimately if somebody can run you around and you go show them 2 to 3 homes and then all of a sudden you find out that they're in no position to buy a house and they shouldn't even be looking. They can barely afford groceries. You know what I mean? So I think it's an important threshold to go over to make sure that, you're not spinning wheels and wasting time.
So perfect question. So on this deck or the script I sent you guys for the showing, it's one of the questions on here. You guys should be able to see my screen now. One sec, share this one. So it's one of the questions on here. Where did it go? Have you met with a lender? What have they told you? How much money are you planning on putting down? If there's an advantage to a second opinion, would you be interested? Right? The tough thing that you guys got to remember is that mortgage is a painful topic for most people, right? When they hear getting pre-qualified, what do they think about? Like what usually goes along with that? Do most people have a really good grasp on their financial health? They know exactly how much money they have in the bank. They know exactly where their credit score is at. No, right? And doing a pre-approval process becomes painfully aware that they don't have that much money. Their credit score is not perfect. Here's all the stuff that's wrong, right? Like it's a discovery process that's a little like, makes you feel a little out there and exposed, right? So my opinion, Evan, is always like they get one showing out of me, right? And if they're not working with a lender or not having a conversation yet, then we need to get that process started, right? If I have a conversation with someone and they're like, yeah, I'm W-2 wage earner, I'm a doctor, my wife's an attorney, and yeah, we're looking at property, and yeah, those types of people, do we need to be super worried about them qualifying? Sure, there's examples of where that backfired on me, like in a very real way, right? But for the most part, at the first showing, give it to them, right? If they're not having a conversation with a lender, After that, that's when you can start kind of getting a little pushier, right? And it's not a, hey, I'm not showing you houses until you get pre-approved. If you do that, they will find someone else who will show them houses, right? It's guiding them to the pre-approval process, right? So how do you do that? Awesome. Well, what I'd like to do, if you're cool with it, if you don't have a lender you're working with, is introduce you to my buddy, Evan. Super great guy. He's an educator first and a mortgage loan officer second, right? His whole goal is to get you educated on the home buying process so that you feel comfortable and you know what's going on. When's a great time the three of us can hop on a phone call for 5 to 10 minutes, right? It's just a smooth little handoff. But good question, Evan. I would ask about that on the first conversation, and you kind of got to play it by ear. There's not like a hard line in the sand that's definitive. Like, I'm not going to show someone another house until they're pre-approved. That's a really quick way to kind of like turn clients off. You just got to keep moving them towards that goal, right? I'm not saying show someone 20 houses in the hopes that they pre-approve someday, right? But like a house 2 or 3, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to like swing the bat, right? All right, cool. Dominic.
Sorry, I was on mute. But question about, I faced this problem literally 3 times in like the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Cool.
I've gotten, one was I'm working with the agent that sold my last 2 houses. I'm working with my best friend's agent, and I've got, what was my other one? Oh, my son used to be a realtor. He's not anymore, but I'm using the guy he worked with.
Cool. Did you ask them for their business, or did they tell you that?
No, they told me that.
Okay. So like typically people do that because this is going to, this might sting a little bit, right? But they might not have seen enough value to where they're like, okay, cool, I want to work with this dude, right? And that's not your fault. It's just, it is what it is. Inevitably, even if you run this script perfectly, there will be circumstances like that. You will put a ton of work into someone and they will go use their brother-in-law to help them buy the house, right? It's inevitable, it will happen. The purpose of this script, Dominic, is to convey enough value to where they just go, what realtor, right? They might have that in their brain going into it. I've been on calls before on the initial call where they're like, yeah, my agent's just out of town and blah, blah, blah. All right, awesome. I'll show you the property tomorrow at 4 o'clock. By the end of the showing, they're going, can we work with you? Right? That's why that value prop pitch is so important, because guess what? Is there the guy who their son worked with when he was a realtor? Is he doing a kick-ass consultation like that, building a ton of value? No, very likely not, right? So this isn't magic, Dominic, but in those circumstances, I would still ask, right? Like shoot or shoot, you have to ask. Otherwise the answer is always no. They can tell you that and it can be okay, cool. Well, let me tell you about what working with me is like a little bit. Going into that value prop pitch and then asking them, hey, would you consider working with me at all? Right? You gotta ask, but it's not going to work every time, man. And that sucks. I'm sorry. I know what that feeling feels like. I've had it happen frequently myself too. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, shoot, dude. You got to take the shot. Danielle.
Not so much a question, but another scenario like Dominic. So I took a Zillow call 2 weeks ago, same day, went out, couldn't get them into the place they wanted to see. I brought 3 other with my, like, I do a whole packet. I have my folder with all my comps, all my information, the buyer packet that we have from the office.
Sure.
I bring a pen and a note card.
Nice.
I tell them to take notes on each of my listings.
Woo!
So my showings, whatever, the appointments that we're seeing. So with this person, they wanted to see a house. We couldn't get in. They had tenants. I pulled 2 other in the same neighborhood and 1 in the community across the street. It was a townhouse complex.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. There was an open house on the one. We spoke to the listing agent. We negotiated right then and there, went outside. He gave me all his information. We did all the correspondence, came home, wrote the offer, put the offer, was just about to send it. He wouldn't sign it. He told me he has an agent.
So my gut is telling me that the guy probably got spooked, right? Or the guy like got cold feet. Do you know if he actually submitted on it?
Yeah, I'm on the referral on it now.
Oh, that's good at least.
Well, I did her job.
Yeah, so I would think
He
about it.
couldn't take him out that day. So he wanted to see it. So I feel sometimes we're door openers.
Yeah, so again, can I push you a little bit, Danielle?
Go for it.
Don't let one instance of that happening like cement your opinion around Zillow leads. And let me tell you why. 9 out of 10 times that's not going to happen, right? Occasionally you'll have a pattern where it's like, shit, this has happened to me a couple of times. Usually when you add in some more value building and stuff, it will prevent it from happening less, but that doesn't mean that it's just going to be a magic snap your fingers fix, right? Don't let a circumstance like that jade you, because the industry is full of people that have like gotten screwed once or twice and are like, Zillow leads suck, right? I know it's tough and that doesn't feel good, but it'll happen once in a while, right? And it is what it is. It's inevitable. There's no magic script there. Probably what I would have done so you can get some clarity on the situation is asked for feedback, right? Asked him, okay, great. So we went out and saw the house, we toured it, we were going to write the offer. I did all this work for you. What happened? Can I ask, like, what made you change your mind? Right? You want to know the reason? He'll tell you the reason why. It might just be my realtor was out of town and I used you. Does that feel
That's what
good
it
to hear?
was.
Does that feel good?
I had that conversation. That's exactly what it was.
Does that feel good to hear? No, makes us feel like a dirtbag, right? But it's inevitable and it was something that was out of your control. That guy, that's not like a morally good thing to do, right? What goes around comes around, but there's no magic way around that. Unless you want to get really weird and do procuring cause and bring attorneys into it and stuff, but that's not worth it in my opinion. Don't let that one situation like jade you though, because you're far too talented to just let one kind of flush it all down.
Thanks.
That makes sense. I know that
Yeah.
sucks. That's not the answer you want to hear, but it is what it is. All right, cool. I got time for a couple more. Joseph.
Hey, what do you do if like last weekend I was on the road and I took a couple calls. I didn't have time to go home and print out a packet. I had no access to a computer or a printer or anything like that before the next appointment. So I want to show at a high level and be prepared to do all the things that we do. But it wasn't feasible and I didn't want to not set the appointment on one. So what do you recommend doing in that scenario?
So again, I'm going to tell you an answer that might not be a super popular opinion, but don't pick up the phone if you're not in a spot where you can't drop what you're doing for the next hour and like dig in on preparing for that showing, right? Does that mean if you're out, you're between appointments, you got access to a Kinko's, you can't rock and roll? That's an option, right? But if you're not in a spot where you can drop what you're doing, I would just think about it like that. I would rather have you guys only take calls, right? We worry about answer rate and conversion rate, but at the end of the day, the most important thing by a large margin is conversion rate, right? Everything else is fixable. If you're not in a spot where you can't drop what you're doing for the next hour to kind of facilitate that showing process up to that point, just don't pick up the phone. And it's okay. And there will be more phone calls, right? But remembering that you have to be in a spot where you can delegate and work on this thing for an hour so that you go into it prepared for the best outcome. Does that make sense, Joseph?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. I know that's not the answer you wanted, right? Salespeople, we always have the idea that like more leads, more showings, more buyers, more offers and stuff. Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, right? And it's all a bandwidth thing. Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Sweet. Dominic, did you have one final question?
My hand's still up. Sorry.
Cool. No worries, dude. You're good. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. I'm going to shoot off on Slack right now. That's everything we talked about, including the deck. Lauren's got a recording of this training. The post-connection call bet still stands. The first person to print one of those bad boys out on your next Flex connection call, and I will check that it's actually a Flex connection call. I will get into Zillow and look at it. You got to follow ALMSS on that call and nail that entire thing. And when you send me that with the date, the person's name on it, and all the boxes checked off, I will send you a $50 gift card to wherever the hell you want. Or I'll just Venmo you if that's easier. Gift cards are a little more personal. So I will see you guys all on the flip side. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I will shoot this over.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris. I just want to point out 2 more things before everyone gets off this call. This was literal gold. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do this and answer all of our questions. Two things, guys, to take away from this call that I wrote down, right? This, if you want to do the same business as we did last year or more, we're going to have to increase our output and work twice as hard, right? Work twice as hard, or either develop your skill set 2 times your skill set, right? Part of that, I think, is this amazing script that you're going to share with us, how to build our value with a buyer in 10 minutes or less. Guys, we have to work harder, right? We have to be having these conversations. We have to ask for the business, right? Cool.
That's the simplest thing. If you took nothing else from this training, just like literally cut off the bottom of that page that's got that question on it, I know I just asked you about a million questions, but is it fair to assume that you and I can work together to find your next house? If you do nothing else, do that and it will change your business. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Later.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you.